Okay, it's been like 3.5 years, but I'm revisiting my Kodansha Manga tier list. Here's the current state of it. As of last time, actually I added Fairy Tales since last time, the original. I had already had 100 Years Quest on there. It's Fairy Tales and S, okay? And as you can see, some stuff has moved around since in the 3 years since I last did this. So, I'm going to briefly address the changes that I have made to the tier list, and I brought some of the stuff that I own to briefly talk about each one. So I'm going to briefly run over the stuff from last time that I've changed, and then I'm going to get into the new additions. Orient ended, I think last year, maybe earlier this. I can't remember when exactly it was. It's all been a blur. When it went to monthly, it sort of became a blur. But that said, I still think it's really good. Of course, Shinobu Otaka's art is unreal. And I think it ended when it should have. It didn't drag on for too long. I think it was 22 volumes in total. And I didn't really think the ending was that bad. The final arc, I think, definitely could have been better. We're gonna see a theme where the final arcs, I think, could have been better in some of these throughout this video. But Orient is definitely not bad. I think especially if you're like just getting into shonen stuff, if you're like interested in shonen stuff, Orient is like it's certainly not a gold standard, but I would call it maybe like a silver standard. It's okay. It's pretty good. And I the characters aren't bad. There's good backstory behind it. There's a very a pretty well thought out system of like magic and how the powers work and stuff. So overall, it's not bad at all. I think it stays where it was before at an A rank. Where am I putting these? I don't know. This is the biggest change. Gachiakta. Gachiakta's creativity continues to blow me away. There's nothing like Gachiakta out there right now. And its characters are unique. Its world is super unique. The powers are so much fun. The artwork is unbelievable. This is an easy, comfortable S rank now. The story, the twists and turns that it takes, the story and how it incorporates the unique world it has. It's just so much fun. Again, there's nothing out there like Gachiakta, I think. And it is just such a cool, unique shonen manga. I think it's just so good. I think the characters aren't like the characters I'm the most attached to in the manga universe, in like all of manga, because I do read a lot of manga. I don't particularly super like the characters in this manga, but everything else about it is just, it's either creative and unique or just super solid. Like story-wise, I think it's pretty normal as a shonen, like if you really, really boil it down, but all of the elements that Gachiakta has, that it uses in that story, are unique and like nothing else in shonen. So I think this is a comfortable S rank now. It's just super engaging and fun to read. Cuckoos has gone down to a C. It would be a C+ if I included that in this, but it's just dragging on way too long for my liking at this point. It's really taking its time, and I don't like it. It should have ended about 100 chapters ago, and now it's just dragging it on pointlessly. It's not like it's notably declined in quality per se, but it's just gone on for too long. It's just doing too many things that don't mean anything. Even it's hard to argue that a lot of the stuff from the beginning even meant that much, but it's just gone on for way too long, and too much stuff is boring or just absurd for no reason. Not even absurd, just not absurd in like the crazy, like whoa kind of crazy way, just absurd like why would you even include that? For what purpose are you doing this? So it's just become boring. And I am, like, again, I'm caught up with all of these. I just can't bring myself to really like it anymore. I think it's a fine manga and the artwork's still good and the characters are okay, but it's just, every time I read it, I'm like, why is this still going? And if you want to compound that, Rent-A-Girlfriend is now a fucking G tier, Z tier, god awful dog shit, trash fire. It's terrible. Kazuya cannot be redeemed at all. Kazuya will never be redeemed as a character. it's not he's necessarily a bad guy, but he's pointless. His entire existence is pointless. And every chapter is a slog because he monologues for at least half of it. Like every chapter is like 18 pages. He's monologuing for at least 8 or 9. Every single chapter about nothing, about stuff that doesn't matter. Rent a Girlfriend could, even if it ends, it's at 400 chapters right now. If it ended at like, let's say it ends at like 450. Just a ballpark guess, right? At the end, if you cut out Kazuya's pointless monologuing, Rent a Girlfriend could probably be like 250 chapters. It's unbelievable. And even besides that, the twists and turns that it takes are fucking stupid. Chizuru rejected him once, but because she's like trying to focus on the play, she's like not in a good position for it, which is fine, like whatever. Like people have their circumstances when it comes to romance, but it's just dumb. It's just dumb. It should be over by now. Just fucking get rid of the pain. I can't take it anymore. I hate it, but I still read it because I like to hurt myself. The Amagami Sisters is still a B. It would be a B plus actually if I included pluses for that, but as it is, it ended earlier this year, I think, and I actually thought it was a pretty solid ending. It was a harem ending, which is fine. I think the way it kind of made an excuse to do the harem ending, actually, I didn't mind it that much. And looking back on it, there were only a pretty small amount of like just filler fan service chapters, like a reasonable amount of just pure fan service chapters. And the like supernatural happenings that kept going on kept intrigue up, and it didn't run on for too long. I think it was like 22 volumes in total, I want to say. So that's a W for what it is in my book, for sure. As so many harems like Kaku's and Rent a Girlfriend have gone on for too long, I don't like it. So this did not fall into that trap, and I really appreciate it for that. Girlfriend ended, and it was a stupid ending, but it was the ending I expected, which was stupid. A lot of the stuff it did was weird, and it was kind of funny occasionally. It's a C. Goddess Cafe Terrace, Cafe Terrace and its Goddesses ended very recently within the past couple weeks or so. I thought the ending was fine. I think a lot of the chapters in the later half were pointless. There's a lot of chapters that revolve around Hayato's dick for no reason. It was funny like 3 times, and then after that it became stupid. But it did have like it had a little arc where like everybody came together at the end to stop that one old guy's master plan or whatever. That was all right. I appreciated the effort at least. Wasn't bad, but and I do like all the characters, especially the main 5 girls. I think they're just fine. Perfectly acceptable characters with their unique backstories, and it wasn't a harem ending, which is definitely a good thing in this case. So easy B tier, I think. Could be a B plus. Fire Force is still really good. I really can't complain. It's no movement, still an S rank. It is like to an extent, it is like a gold standard for a modern shonen, I think. It's got weird stuff about it, but it's structured really nicely, like throughout the story, and paced well. I think it's just a really, really strong shonen, especially because, like, again, in the modern era, you kind of have to be different. Doing weird shit usually works to your benefit, because it's like, what the fuck? You want readers to, readers have seen a lot, right? It's not necessarily easy. Not everybody's me, where they just read shonen manga because they like shonen manga. People want to see something different. I think Fire Force, especially as it gets into its later stages, does offer that. So, no movement, S rank. What else did I do? Talked about Fairy Tail, S rank. Fairy Tail's a fantastic shonen, even with the power of friendship. Has a really good story going for it. 100 Years Quest has stumbled a bit, I think. Again, I stand by what I said last time about it. If Natsu and Ignia have a fucking 8 to 10 chapter fucking knockout, drag out brawl, and it rules and it rips shit, it might move to an A+. But just especially since the arc with the gold dragon god, where Sabretooth was there, That felt like a stupid ending, and I cannot stand that my boy Gray does jack diddly squat. Give Gray, just let Gray have a cool fight. He has so much cool magic, just let him fight someone. It's not rocket science. Eden Zero is a low S rank. I think its final arc, a lot of the things, here's my theory about Eden Zero, just really fast. I think Eden Zero's final arc was rushed. I think a lot of the stuff that was included in the final arc of Eden Zero was Mashima's original vision for it, but it was just rushed to completion. Mashima, it's been revealed, or I guess announced in some official capacity, that he is starting another, I guess, weekly series starting in January, and I pray to God we follow through on this one, because Eden Zero, like, the first 25 volumes of Eden Zero were fucking peak, and the final arc just stumbled. It was just rushed, and everything, like, went back to normal, and everybody was fine, and that's fine. I don't mind that necessarily, but it just didn't feel like how Eden Zero should have gone. I'm not saying I wanted Witch and them to stay dead, right? But it just felt like nothing had actual consequences up to that point, because of the whole Universe Zero crap. And then, like, again, I don't necessarily have a problem with the Universe Zero and everything going back to normal and they restart from the beginning. Whatever, fine. But it just felt rushed. If it had just been fleshed out more, and, like, if that final arc had just been fleshed out a little more, maybe it went up to, I don't know, 38 volumes instead of 33, and we actually got some kind of took some more time to explore everything and not just fucking rushed everything to completion, I think it could have been better than Fairy Tail. But as it is, it's not. Quintuplets is still one of my favorite romances ever, but there's just not enough to it, at least now with the A+ rank I've included, for me to justify it being an S rank. There's just not enough to it compared to my favorite stuff. It's not necessarily a bad thing, especially because one of the Quintuplet's great selling points, in my opinion, is that it's only 14 volumes, 122 chapters. But that being said, it's not enough to get me, like, super invested in it and make me really, like, sing its praises. But it is still a great harem rom-com manga, whatever. I think it's still fantastic. So, it gets an A+. Now, moving on to new things, I'm going to do these mostly in the order, the same thing I talked about before in the last tier list I did. Reverse order of how I caught up to them. So, basically, the things I've caught up to most recently, the series I've caught up to most recently from today, will be first. And the stuff that I caught up on or finished closer to 2022, like May or April of 2022 when I did the last one, will be last. That being said, the first new thing is Medalist. And if you watched my Winter 2025 roundup, you know I glazed this like crazy, and for good reason. It is, I'm just gonna put it, it's a comfortable S rank. I would even say it's above Gachiakta, just because this has impressed me so much. Like, this came out of nowhere, and when I was catching up to the manga, I was literally bringing my ass over to Wikipedia and YouTube videos to watch people do these, like, figure skating jumps, like, actually, so I could learn the difference between, it was making me do actual fucking research about figure skating, which I never gave a fuck about before. But Medalist, it just has something, it's the intangible charm that Medalist has. It's about its characters, about the story progression. I just can't get enough of Medalist. It's so much fun to read, and I look forward to its release every single month. I'm like, oh, when is the new Medalist coming out? And it is just such a delight. I think the pacing, and even there are some times throughout this manga where I'm like, oh no, like, I'm legitimately watching Inori's performances, or I guess reading. I'm like reading through as she performs, like, please don't mess up, please don't mess up. That's how invested I am in this series. I'm like, Inori, don't mess up, please, you got this. And not every series can do that. It's just, it's just got something about it. It's got this, like I said, the intangible charm about Medalist. It's super hard to nail it down, I think. And this series just does it. I just continue to be impressed by the intricacy of the, like, how this story weaves its characters and its world together. There's just, like, aside from the main two, which again, I think this series is carried by the main two. I can't get enough of those two together, of Tsukasa and Inori together. I just love them. And but just the way it tells a story, like, it feels, even looking at it as a story and not as like a fan of hope, like praying to God Inori doesn't mess up. When she does mess up, it does feel like there's some amount of deliberance to, like, it's deliberate when she does mess up. Like, there's a reason for that she messes up, like it inspires her to do something or fix something or like train a certain thing about her figure skating that she needs to improve, whatever. It feels like there's actually like the creator is actually taking time to address what you might actually struggle with as a figure skater, even though I know nothing about it. But I'm serious, man. Like, Medalist is just wonderful. It doesn't have the best artwork of the series I'm going to be talking about today. I think it's a little, I wouldn't even say iffy. It's just like, it does feel like the quality dips slightly sometimes compared to other times. But that being said, the way that the figure skating is drawn and expressed, especially as pictures, is excellent, I think, for what it is. Like, it's tough. I think it would be really tough to get across figure skating's, like, very delicate and graceful movements and jumps through just pictures, but Medalist does it, like, expertly. So, nothing to complain about here. It is just a delight to read. Like, and I love the, like, ever-shifting dynamic between Inori and Hikaru. There's a lot to like here. Especially, I mean, you could consider it, like, again, it's sort of like a sports shonen, but it's got a lot to it that I think doesn't really fall into what normal shonen would have. But we're in it for the long haul, right? Like, shonen manga usually commit to the long haul, and Medalist has absolutely done that. So, in that sense, I just love following along with it. It's just so much fun to read. Huge fan of Medalist here. Next up, and full admission here, I'm not fully caught up just yet. I'm only a handful of volumes in, but I wanted to add it just because I think it's really good so far. Witch Hat Atelier. This has really impressed me so far. I think its undeniably strongest aspect is its world building. It's super immersive. It's like fully thought out, very thorough, well built. It's, you know, I'm not going to criticize it for being Harry Potter-esque. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's like Harry Potter, even in the manga, the world of manga. I'm not going to criticize it for how Harry Potter it is, because that's not a problem. Harry Potter's excellent. Again, it is very thorough, it's different, it's unique, a lot of stuff, even just in the smaller details, like with the translation and how it's done. It uses a lot of, like, almost like old English, you know? Like, it just makes it feel different. A lot of the small details about Witch Hat Atelier, even if it's in its localization, make it feel different and unique. And I think the characters are well done as well. It doesn't waste any time. Like, it immediately kind of sets up a lot of the issues that the characters will face going forward and eventually tackles them one by one. And even some characters who don't play as much of a role, like that one boy who has the silver wash, I forget his name, but he has some amount of character development as well. So it's not just limited to Coco or Agat or Riche or what's the other girl's name? I forgot. Tetsuya. Bam. And there's even the, like, sort of shades of gray that Master Keyfree takes a lot of the time, like, where he's so obsessed with finding the brimmed caps that he, like, sneaks under the, you know, he doesn't necessarily listen to, like, the association of witches or whatever. There's a lot of interesting things about it. And again, I'm not fully caught up with this one yet, but I think it's an easy A+. It definitely could move higher in A+, or even to S if I really like what's going on. But the actual story of it so far has kind of just been okay. Nothing to complain about for sure, but it's also not been the most, like, capturing the most, like, compelling thing ever. It's been very much like, it feels in the early stages of a very long-term kind of deal. That's just to me, though. We haven't really built up a whole lot yet, but there is a lot of intriguing things about the characters, about the world and stuff, and it makes me, even from where I am now, I'm like, what do the Brim Caps want with Coco? What are they expecting of her? Like, there's a lot of mystery hanging around it. I think it's really well done. And the art's really, really cool as well. Like, the magic system that has been developed in this world, again, very thorough. It's so evident that so much thought has gone into it. So I really appreciate that about this one. Next up is Wistoria, Wand and Sword. Now, this has been pretty solid. I really glazed the anime when I covered it in the, I think it was summer 2024 seasonal roundup, and for good reason. And the manga is still very good. I need to see the whole vision of this arc that's happening right now, because there was like there was someone who infiltrated the Magic Association. I forget the name of whatever's going on. This is a monthly release, so it's kind of hard for me to remember some of the details. The plot has been pretty good, like, especially because I started reading from where the anime left off. The plot has been pretty good, and I do still like the characters here and everything. And there was even some pretty solid work done on Julius. Was that his name? The ice wizard guy? I forget. But there was even some good character work done for him. Like, he got some good character development. We've been following Will and Liana a lot, which is a little surprising. They've been sort of grouped together in, like, the Thunder faction or whatever. And there was that infiltrator who had puppets or whatever. And now, like, in the most recent chapters, they've introduced, like, the God of Death, this giant fucking upside-down monster or whatever. And I think some guy turned into a monster in the most recent chapter. I don't remember exactly, but this one is still very good, and it gets an A+, for sure. It's ranked an A+. Just because it's monthly, it's a little hard for me to follow completely. I often forget things about it, and it feels like it's introduced a lot of characters that, like, even new characters, since Will has gone up the tower a little bit. Feels like it's introduced new characters that are supposed to matter, but it's not put enough emphasis on them for me to realize that they're supposed to matter. So it's a little hard for me to, like, completely get on board with. Because I think it is very well done. But I think it's that first season, like the stuff that was covered in the first season, was really where it shined a lot. And again, I think once this arc finishes, and I'm probably gonna go read it back just to get the full vision. I often find that I am more invested in manga when I read a bunch of it at once, as opposed to reading once a week or even once a month. Especially once a month is the hardest. There are manga that I read once a month that I'm able to follow a lot easier. Maybe it's because I'm an idiot, but I'm not sure. But either way, I just need to see what the vision for this is. Now, because what's his name? Fujino Omori. This is, the story is by the guy who wrote Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? He's obviously in it for the long haul. Of course he is. There's like goddamn 30 some odd volumes of Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? So I need to see what's going on here. I need the full vision before I can really make a more sound judgment about this. But I do think the art is excellent, and it is an enjoyable read when it does come out. It's just sometimes it's hard for me to keep track of everything. So, and it does have a good world as well. Like, its sense of world building is excellent. Next up is Tune Into the Midnight Heart. Unrelated, but I just saw this morning that Suichan is doing the opening song for this anime airing in January, and that's super hype. Very surprising. I would not have guessed that in a very long time. But this is a great manga. I think it is a top-notch harem for sure. Like, it takes a certain watcher of anime or reader of manga to like harems, I guess you would say. But for what this is, there's a lot to it besides the harem elements. I think the essence of harems is, especially a good harem, is the main guy sort of getting himself involved with each girl on a deep level individually. And our boy, Arisu, I remembered his name, absolutely does that, because it's made clear from very early on in this manga that each of the 4 girls have a unique dream that involves their voice. And Arisu is able to, with his connections or ability or whatever, he's, you know, the son of the Yamabuki family, so he's cool or whatever. He's very good at whatever he puts his mind to. He's able to sort of become the supporter for each one of them and sort of propel them towards actually, towards actualizing their dreams for real. And it never takes too long to do any one thing, so it doesn't drag itself out. Everything that they do is really sensible. But the big selling point, I think, is not only the Chad, like the Hayato level Chad that Arisu is, but also the fact that it's not dragged out at all. It goes along at a good pace. Each of the girls struggle with very unique problems, even that might not necessarily relate to what their dreams are. They're very unique personalities, and it's got a great sense of humor. Again, this is the same author who wrote Detectives these days, which I, again, thought was really funny. So it does have a great sense of humor as well. So this is just a winner all around. But it cannot go on for too long. That's why my big worry. If it sits itself and like plants itself right around like 20-ish volumes, this is gonna be a home run. But if it goes on for too long, I'm afraid it's gonna fall into the trap that so many other harems in Weekly Shonen magazine have fallen into, like Cuckoos and Rent a Girlfriend and all that shit. So please, God, just end when you're supposed to. I do not need this one dragged out. I think it's excellent for what it is, and super enjoyable, and the concept is great as well. The like sort of there's like, again, harem manga should absolutely have a winner and a loser, a winner and losers in a way of speaking. So I think this is well on its way to being a complete home run of a harem manga. So next up is Go Loser Ranger by Nagi Haruba. My god, this shit is diabolical. My biggest gripe with Loser Ranger is that I am an idiot. And that's really not a gripe with Loser Ranger at all, it's a gripe with me. I find this sometimes a little hard to follow. I need to have things spelled out for me, otherwise I won't be able to understand. I'm basically a 5-year-old child. So, since this does not like outright spell out a lot of things, I'm oftentimes felt a little bit lost, although usually if I go back and reread some stuff, I'm usually able to grasp what I'm missing. So, that being said, I think what it's done in its final arc, it's very near completion at this point. I think it's like right at its like sort of final climax. Where I last left off with it, and this is being fan translated, by the way. I'm reading like a fan translation from Manga Dex and stuff. So it's not updated weekly regularly, but so where I left off with it was, I think, like Suzukiri, Green, Red. Who's not Red anymore, is like the clone of Red or whatever. Goddamn. This is the ship I'm talking about. And one other guy, I forget. But they all were like in a free-for-all. They were about to face off in a free-for-all. But it's been super unique. And again, I praise Gachiakta for being unique. This is also super unique, but it's definitely a more niche kind of. It's unusual, it's weird, and it completely like blurs the lines of like in-universe fiction, and it's like the whole concept is that this in-universe fictional work was brought to life because the creator was like this completely like obsessed fucking freak of a man with like this crazy scientific technology. And the freak of a man, of course, is Yellow. It actually might have been Yellow who is the other guy, or one of the two clones of Yellow, but it was the one that was focused on being bringing the stuff to life and not being weird, whereas the other clone of Yellow was focused on taking care of Suzukiri. There's a lot of stuff here. Because Yellow split himself into two so he could live two lives at once. Whatever. What I'm saying is this is really strange in a good way generally. It does a lot of weird shit throughout it, but the pacing has been good. Again, I think we're around about 200 chapters and it's nearing its conclusion. I cannot complain about that because it has done a lot of things in those 200 chapters. So that's a win in my book. It is absolutely enjoyable for the right audience. Again, you have just go in expecting it to be weird because it is strange and a little hard to follow. Loser Ranger is an A+. I can't bring myself to bring it to an S yet, but if it sticks the landing, it could very well be an S rank. We'll see. I'm a little... We'll see. Next up is Shangri-La Frontier. So, I have loved the Shangri-La Frontier anime, and the Shangri-La Frontier anime definitely upgrades the source material, but the source material is still excellent. Shangri-La Frontier is a pretty comfortable S rank. I think sometimes it takes a little too long to do things. I think it could afford to go into less detail with some things, but that said, I think it does a good job of exploring all the various wild aspects of the VR game Shangri-La Frontier. The VR game that Shangri-La Frontier is, because there's so much to it. And what's recently been happening with the Gold Honey Hay, I think they've been defending Rabatuza, and recently finished up the boss battle against the squid monster, I forget its name, which was alright. Again, that could have gone on for longer, but it didn't, which is a good thing. It kind of finished up in a I guess a reasonable amount of chapters. And there's been a lot of interesting developments about like the characters and the way the world of Shangri-La Frontier is constantly changing, even within its player base, right? Like with the new guild that they're forming, the main three are forming, and now that includes Ray as well. So there's a lot of interesting developments about this. I think it could be a little faster paced than it is. It sometimes takes too long to do things, just in general. Like I already kind of think it spent a little too long focusing. Like it's been like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 chapters now of Sunraku just like trying to battle the Gold Honey Hay clone and extract the specific poison from it. I think that has gone on a little too long, but it is going into detail and it's really working everything out within the rules that it's created for itself, so I really can't complain too much about that. And I do think, again, I like the characters and everything. I really can't complain too much about this. It's a comfortable S rank. It's really enjoyable to read, and the artwork is excellent as well. So, it's fun. It's a fun read, for sure. Windbreaker. This is really good. Another comfortable S rank for me. I thought it would have gotten stale by now, but it really has not. Which it continues to impress me. There's a lot of... Windbreaker is so human. There's so much humanity in a good way. Like, it feels like it really captures a lot of different things about just living and, like, the troubles you have to face. Just even living as a human being, a lot of just very mundane sort of troubles that feel relatable. I think it's excellent. And the artwork is really, really strong as well. It's just been just a great read. Like every time I'm like, all right, this is, maybe I'm not super interested in any one specific thing, it finds a way to get me interested and get me invested in what's going on. Even the most recent thing with the, God, I forget his name, but it's that one edgy kid who showed up kind of recently. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm not gonna give a fuck about this guy. And now I give a fuck about him. So, it's just continued to win me over. And I think the big war, it's not really a war, but it's sort of like inter-school war that ended with the climax between, God, I forget their names, but the one with the firehead and Umehara, or just Ume or whatever, the big fucking fight scene, and even Sakura's fight with that other one guy, the same guy who showed up at the end of season 2 of Windbreaker, forget his name. That arc I thought was really good. I actually thought that was going to be the end, but it has kept up the intrigue. Like, it's kept my interest even beyond that. So I'm curious where it's going to go next, and that's really all you can ask. And again, I think the way he draws the fight scenes are really dynamic and cool. This is a winner for sure. Really enjoyable. And again, at its core, it feels relatable. I feel like there's a lot of stuff about it that's more relatable than a lot of other manga out there. Okay, I don't have this one. I'm not sold on it yet. Next up is Dead Rock. This is Mashima's new monthly release. I've been reading it since the start. I'm not fully sold on it. It's alright. It's going in B tier. I don't know if I can put my finger on what exactly I find iffy about it, but I just don't find myself liking its characters quite as much as other Mashima works. I don't care much about the story too much. It feels like there's a lot of stuff that should have been fleshed out at least a little bit more by now, but like it feels like it's adding too many things that it's not going to be able, it's all going to catch up to it, and we're not going to know enough by the end. Unless Dead Rock ends up going on for a long time, which I'm not sure that it will. It's just been like kind of dropping weird things one at a time. Like there's one thing that really stands out to me. The Necromancer girl is supposedly part of this like survey operation or whatever, like some kind of undercover organization. We know nothing else about it. That was like months and months ago we learned that. Like maybe even a year ago. I forget when it was. But it's been a long time since we learned that. We know nothing more about it, even now. It just feels like developments are being thrown against the wall. Like, Yakuto died, but he's not dead. He's coming back to life through a portal from the human world or whatever. A lot about it feels rushed. There hasn't really been any super memorable developments in the story other than Yakuto dying in that tournament or whatever. Even I'm not super sold on the God guy as a villain yet. He's just mean and is a bitch, which it's fine. Like I still want him to die in a very basic way, but or at least get some kind of comeuppance, right? But other than that, there's been nothing memorable about Dead Rock, especially in comparison to Mashima's other works. I think Frey is probably the strongest character out of everyone so far. Like, she had some backstory that got explored. It just hasn't been enough for me, so far. So, I think it could still improve. I absolutely think it could improve still. I think I said it's going in B tier. It could absolutely still improve. The development of them going to the human world from the demon world, like that's coming up, is absolutely promising, or could be promising, right? It could absolutely be promising depending on where Mashima goes with it. But so far it just hasn't impressed me at all. So again, I think it's been enjoyable. I think Mashima's art is as good as it's ever been. But it's just okay. So, next up is those Hanazono twins. This is a I just read this on a whim one time because it was already over. It's like 70-something chapters, I think. This is a perfectly acceptable little, it's not really a harem. There's only 2 love interests, but a 2-way, a love triangle thing. Perfectly acceptable. It's a little trashy. That's kind of how I like my harems. A little fan servicey. I feel like it does what it needs to do and then just ends. So great. Like, I think it doesn't have too many chapters that don't contribute anything, which is a good thing. Each chapter does feel like it sort of builds on itself to eventually reach the end. And I think the ending is, like, it's boring. The ending is like, okay, yeah, I could have seen that coming. But it's sensible, and I don't hate it. So, that said, I think it's a pretty comfortable, well, maybe not comfortable, it's probably a low B tier. If there was a C+, I might have put it there. But I'll round it up for this one. The artwork's pretty good. I like it. I think it's alright. And I think the character work is not bad either. The dynamic between the three of them is okay. Yeah. Perfectly acceptable little love triangle trash fucking thing. I think it's just fine. Staying on theme, I'm going to talk about Wotakoi. Love is hard for otaku. This is not exactly my speed, but I think for what it was going for, it absolutely nailed it. This is an A tier for me. Again, this is not my speed, but I do like to incorporate some amount of objectivity, or at least my vague sense of objectivity, into my tier lists. I think for what it was going for, it absolutely nails it. This is like a very, like, the characters are wacky and fun. The dialogue is fun to, it's a fairly enjoyable read all the way through. The developments in the romance between each of the different couples involved is sensible for each one. Again, it's different. It kind of highlights that every couple is different, takes things at their own pace. And the unique element of including, like, how deep they are in their hobbies, again, it feels very human about them. It makes them feel a lot more human as characters. So it's a good thing. Each couple has a unique dynamic. The dialogue, again, I like the pairings. It's just fun. Each one has goofy things about them. It's a fun read. It's, again, not exactly my speed, but it does its thing, ends, and it's all the better for it. So I really enjoyed it for what it was. Okay, next up, and it's an absolute fucking shame that we don't have this in print. Your Boy Kongming. Been a while since I've talked about this. I've been keeping up to date with the manga as new volumes come out, at least pretty regularly. And surprisingly, the formula, it's a little formulaic with each arc. But I cannot bring myself to hate it even a little bit, because the formula is still working, and the development of, like, Eigo's music career is completely sensible. Maybe a little fast-tracked just for the sake of the manga, which I don't mind at all. I'm surprised it's gone on for this long, to be honest. I forget how many volumes it is now, but it's a surprising amount. I really thought it would have ended by now, but it's still, like, in the middle somewhere, it feels like. So that, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I think Eiko is still a wonderful character, and just watching Kongming sort of maneuver through this bizarre world that he's still, like, kind of adjusting to a little bit, it is just a delight. It's a delight to read, it really is. I think the last big thing I remember, at least big arc, was Kongming helping that preschool or elementary school or whatever it was, which was sort of like a side thing to help secure a music producer, whatever. But even that was a complete sort of detour from the music stuff, was fun. So I've just been really enjoying your boy Kongming, even now, to this day, 3.5 years after I covered that the anime originally. It is still a hidden gem. It is just a delight in all aspects, I think. It's an easy A+ for me. I really want to know where it's going. Again, I think when this whole thing has come to an end and I can see the big picture, it could very well be an S rank. But for now, it's still an A+. I just don't understand how this works so well. It's so, like, the concept still sounds ridiculous, but it just works. I can't get enough. I think it's really fun. And I've been really enjoying it. So big dub for your boy Kongming. Next up is another manga that ended within the last year or two. Can't remember exactly. Tomodachi Game. Again, I covered that in the same roundup video too. Tomodachi Game, I didn't super like its final arc, but everything before that was really good. I thought there's one specific thing that happened towards the middle, which I won't spoil, but as someone who watched the anime and left off from there, I was surprised. Of course, I'm talking about you know who. I believe she was involved in the final arc. I can't remember. I think she was a female character who we saw a lot of in season 1. Did a crazy thing around the middle, which I was like, in retrospect, I'm like, I kind of should have seen that coming, but also, holy shit. So, and the final arc, I don't know, it's just too much psychology, weird, like, psychology, pointless bullshit. I didn't really like it that much. It was okay. I do think it kept up, like, a good sense of intrigue. And the ending was fine. The ending was, like, it made sense. And it kind of, it did feel like it resolved mostly everything it needed to. But I don't remember much of it. So, that being said, it gets an A. I think it's enjoyable for the right audience. I think it had like a one-footed landing. It stumbled a little, like, you know, if we're talking about its ending as if it were like a gymnastics, you know, someone bouncing off the rail and trying to stick a landing, it kind of went like this. It was like, ugh. That's how it looked. That's basically Tomodachi Game's ending. It was like, okay, great, you just sort of did it. You know, you're mostly there, and that was fine. A lot of twists and turns on that one. I mean, if you're looking for that, not a lot of manga out there with as much crazy twists and turns as Tomodachi Game. So, okay, next up is Blue Lock. I have it right here. It's fucking peak. I would put this on the same level as One Piece. I don't think Blue Lock has done a single misstep so far. I think everything Blue Lock has done has been fucking... It's contributed to the ultimate story. Its pacing has been maybe a little slow at times, but ultimately, we get to the destination in a reasonable amount of time. The games are super fun. The art is unbelievable, especially when it gets really good with like a lot of the very climactic goals and stuff. Unbelievable. Blue Lock just continues and continues to impress in every sense. I really, like, legitimately, in my MAL list, it's the only other manga besides One Piece I've rated a 10. It has not done anything wrong, in my opinion. Everything about it is fucking excellent. So, I really don't think I need to, especially as a manga. Again, I have some issues with season 2 of the anime. That's insignificant here. In fact, it ultimately means nothing when it comes to the actual manga. Blue Lock manga is unbelievably good. Everything, especially recently, now that we're kind of like past a lot of the more significant character development, it just finished up the game. I think the most recent chapter just finished the game between Blue Lock, or just the Japan U20 team, and the, I think, Nigeria U20 team. It went by in a flash, and they've made a statement, and they won like 4-0. Now that we're at this point, I think this is the World Cup, I think, or at least like the sort of round robin World Cup stuff. Now that we're at this this point where it's going fast paced, there's not as much internal monologuing, Blue Lock is really going to pick up even more. Yeah, but it's been excellent so far. The Neo Egoist League arc overall was a great addition. It's peak. It actually is peak. I still have not fully read Haikyuu or anything, but I can't imagine it's as good as Blue Lock. It is that good. It is that good, man. It is so awesome. It's just even the psychology, the amount, like every so often it includes like sports psychology to like the sort of justify Ego's motivations to instruct and coach the soccer kids as he's done. It's excellent. It all perfectly makes sense, fits right in with the sort of narrative Blue Lock has explored so far. It's peak. That's it. And the fact that it has probably my favorite anime woman ever is just a cherry on top. So, now to stack onto that, Blue Lock episode Nagi. This one's out of order, of course. I did episode Nagi after I caught up to Blue Lock. This ended a few months ago. It was fine. I'm going to put this in an A tier. Just because it's a spin-off, I have a hard time justifying putting it any higher than that. Because it is just basically Blue Lock with focusing on Nagi instead of Isagi. But for what it was, it had a lot of the, it does the same things Blue Lock does really well. A lot of the same strengths. It just sort of takes the time to explore Nagi's trip through the second stage of the qualifiers or whatever. When they're doing the 3 vs 3, 4 vs 4 and all that, like sort of knockout games. And it does take its time with them, surprisingly enough, which, again, like I said, gives it a lot of the same strengths as the main series. So with that being said, I think it's very good for what it is, and it's like 8 volumes. Super enjoyable for a spinoff, I think. It follows a lot of the characters we know. Nothing to complain about here. I think for a spinoff, absolutely justifies its own existence. And that's really all you can ask for. Next up is The Classroom of a Black Cat and a Witch. This is by the person who wrote Boarding School Juliet. This has moderately impressed me so far. It's going in B tier. It has mostly been good. It has a lot of stuff that I think has potential. I think it's still kind of around the middle points of its story. And it has done a lot of good things, a lot of interesting things. There's some like, there was that big arc kind of recently where I think one of the teachers defected to the dark side or whatever. One of the professors at the school. And let in a bunch of the evil guys. This is, I spent a long time off this one. I only kind of recently caught back up to it, from like chapter 40 or so. So forgive me for misremembering some stuff or just failing to remember some stuff. But even within there's some intricacies. There's some like sort of nuances. Like Ark, I think, is the one who was imprisoned, and who Virgo Spica goes to talk to sometimes. And recently they're starting up like the tournament or whatever. I think they're like in the middle of like the equivalent of a sports festival or whatever right now. Then there's like this mystery regarding the true nature of the magic that Claude, the rebirth magic, I think it's called. I think Spica had some crazy shit happen to her in the tail end of that big battle arc where the invaders came in or whatever. And I really did like the arc of like the test on the island. I forget exactly what it was, but it was like an island exam where Spica and Arya finally kind of got over their differences. I liked that part for sure. But yeah, it's done a lot of good stuff. It's, again, I see the potential in a lot of spots. It just needs to sort of execute and follow through on a lot of those things. And I think the characters are alright too. I like Spica quite a bit. I think for who she is, she's very capable as like the lead character. From like a design standpoint, she's very capable of like guiding us, the readers, through this world. And she's easy to get on board with and root for, since she's just so nice and sweet. So yeah, I like it. I can't remember when I started reading it, but I do enjoy it, generally speaking. A lot of weird characters here, and it does have a pretty decent sense of humor that kind of works with those weird characters, but it's alright. Okay, next up is Medaka Kuroiwa is Impervious to My Charms. I don't know why I started reading this originally, but I've kept up with it every week. And again, we are dragging it on for too long. Every chapter does not feel like it does enough. I don't know if it's because of the layouts or what, but every individual chapter, a lot of times feels like it accomplishes a whole lot of nothing. That being said, I think the art's really good. I think the sort of contrast, like the contrast that Mona keeps up of like her being all cute and sweet at school and then kind of being like obnoxious and like a little rude when she's at home or with her friends. It hasn't gotten as stale as I would have expected, but I have to give this a C. It just has gone on for too long. Like, I think it could do more per chapter, and I think it really hasn't needed to go on for as long as it has. That being said, I think if it ends in like another 50 chapters or so, which it won't, but if it did, it could move to a B, or a B+, or a C+, or whatever, like a B. It could move to a B, probably a B. Because then I would see the whole picture, but it won't end in another 50 chapters. It will not. There's no way. So, unfortunately, it will probably remain a C+. But I don't hate the characters or anything. I think it has made some significant developments in the romance department between the various girls, and there is some sort of like outside things about it, like stuff that doesn't relate to the main harem angles. So it does try. It tries still, sometimes. It's not really enough, though. And finally, the last thing on this list, Tokyo Revengers. Basically, the only stuff the anime hasn't covered yet is the final arc with like Mikey going completely rogue. And I think a lot of the stuff up to that point was really good. And I think even the last arc was pretty solid as well. And but it felt like, I don't know, the way the final arc was executed in Tokyo Revengers before the hard reset, it felt like it kind of gave away that a lot of the characters who died in that final arc weren't going to stay dead. And again, I don't have a problem with the super happy ending where everything is totally fine and dandy and all. But just felt like it ignored a lot of the consequences of all the stuff that happened before. But it does do a lot of interesting things as well. I think story-wise, it does explore everything that it needs to do, because Mikey was always this sort of anomaly throughout the story. So it's good that that is actually, like, becomes a major plot point later on. But, and you know, I do enjoy it and all. I think it does a great job of getting you invested. It has a lot of cool characters. It's not as good as some of the other stuff I've covered already, though. But that being said, granted that I can see the whole vision, it is going in S tier. I think generally speaking, a lot of the development between Mikey and Takemichi is well done, even in the final arc. I'm not the biggest fan of the art style or anything, but for what it is, it's super enjoyable. Again, a lot of the stuff, especially the war arc, the sort of the everything before Mikey goes rogue, was excellent, I thought. So, absolutely enjoyable, for sure. And actually, the fact that it doesn't, like, have a whole arc dedicated to the hard reset and instead kind of just does it all at once, actually makes me want to more inclined to forgive it for that. Because I think it kind of forecasted that in a way, and it was, like, meant to be part of the story. Even if it was a bit contrived to get there. But, again, I did enjoy it, so I can't complain too much. Now, that being said, this is the full list. I'm going to show it all here. This is the full list, full tier list that I compiled of every single manga that I'm currently reading or have finished already. It's actually not every single one. I've discounted a lot of manga that got axed, so forgive me for that, but a lot of manga that, like, from Shonen Jump that got axed that I've read. But everything that has gone on for a significant amount of time so far, I've included that I've read or finished. And I've also expanded the tiers, the amount of tiers. So, yeah, I'll talk more about some of the stuff that's not been published by Shonen Jump or Kodansha in another video later on, because I still need to catch up with a couple other things, namely Black Lagoon. For now, it's an S tier, but I'm not fully caught up with it yet. And this will definitely change, like how things are ranked and stuff like that. This will definitely change. But that's how it is for now. And I'll go into more detail. I'm sure there's some stuff people are questioning. I'll go into more detail in that next video, because the next video I do will either be more Shonen Jump manga or manga published by Viz, Seven Seas, whoever else, Yen Press, whatever. So those will all be in one big video. So that's how it is for now. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next, probably in the seasonal roundup. Let's go!